Hello, this is a video demo of a really early version of a program I'm calling Abrela. I'm calling it that right now, at least. It's designed to be like a choose your own adventure music thing for the bootlegger music released by King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. I'm going to show you what it looks like to start it for the first time and just sort of how it works in general, since it makes an MP3 as like an end result. So I wanted to make a video too to show what that looks and sounds like. So I'm going to be launching it here from what I coded it in, but I'm hoping to soon have a way to distribute it so that people can run it on their own computers pretty simply. So anyway, when you start it for the first time, you get this welcome dialog just telling you what it is and where to get the music from. So you got to download the albums yourself ahead of time from the Bootleg Gizzard Bandcamp page. Only MP3 files are supported currently, no other formats. And then it just tells you what you have to do to get set up. What that is just downloading the albums. You do have the option to name a price during the checkout process if you want. And then that's going to give you a zip file, one for each album. And you need to extract these zips. There is a program called 7-Zip that works really well for bulk zip extracting, but you only have to do it once, so whatever works for you. When you do extract them, you will get one folder for each album, and once you've got these folders, you can delete the original zips. You don't need to keep both of them. I just kept them so I could show you, but you get these album folders. They have a cover, art file, and then the MP3 files, and those are the files that Abrela works with. So once you've got that set up, it's best to keep them or put them into a shared folder like this, where all the folders are just in one shared folder. And then you can ask it not to show you this again. It's going to ask you two questions. Do you have all of them downloaded or just some of them? I'll show you some just for so you know what it looks like. And then do you have them stored in one shared folder or in separate folders? I will show you separate, but that is more complicated, so it's best to do shared. But we'll start this way just for demo purposes. If you only have some of them, you have to tell Abrela which ones you have, so it knows what to look for and load up for you. If you have most of them but not a couple, you can check them all and then just uncheck the ones you don't have. You can remember that. And the reason you want to probably put them in one shared folder is because if you don't, you have to do this. You have to tell it this album is in this folder, this album is in this folder, this album is in this folder. And it's probably just more time than it's worth, but if you really wanted to, you could. So I have all of them and they're all in one shared folder. So that's kind of the default behavior. I'll show you what that looks like. So you just browse to that location, which is here for me. And I'm going to ask Abrela to remember. Now it is doing a one-time like image cache creation. It's making a small version of all the covers, the album arts, to make it load faster. So that's a one-time thing. The default start screen, as long as you've remembered all the steps prior to this, will be this, the all albums view. You've got a live section, the compilation section, and the studio section. And then, yeah, all these albums are selectable. All the tracks then per album are selectable. And this is sort of the functionality of Abrela, this transition screen. So there's nothing real special here right now. I'll show you another example in a second. But what you've got here is a timeline, which is just one track in this case, so a 4-minute and 4-second track. And I can select this as my next track. My timeline updates. Now I've got 2 tracks in my timeline and so on. You have a couple timeline functionalities. If you don't like the random color it picked for you, you can click until you get another one. Kind of silly, but it's in there. And you can also start over from a section just by clicking it. So if you wanted to, right now there's only one path you can go on, but if you wanted to restart, you could do that. So where the real functionality is in custom transitions, what I'm calling custom transitions, which are just transitions that are not default. So in this case, the default transition would be to Big Fig Wasp, but if I click on Robot Stop, I see I have that default transition, Big Fig Wasp, but I also have a custom transition listed here to Big Fig Wasp on another album, Live in Kentucky 24. So that's saying that at 8 minutes and 20 seconds in Robot Stop, we are going to fade in Big Fig Wasp starting at its 2-minute and 20-second timestamp. And So notice that the timeline right now for just this one track is 9 minutes and 7 seconds, one track. But if I click this, instead of just two track segments next to each other, you can see you've got a little 6-second transition here. That means that for 8 minutes and 20 seconds, Robot Stop's going to be playing by itself. Then you're going to have a crossfade here where Big Fig Wasp is going to fade in and Robot Stop is going to fade out. And you can just sort of continue indefinitely from there. So I've got just a set of demo transitions. They're not real. They're not going to sound good. It's just to get the idea across. And then I'll talk more about what I'm hoping for the future for this at the end. So just a example of what a nonagon infinity might look like. So you can see just different track segments here with a transition segment between each of them. You can again start over from any point just by clicking on it. And you can also mix custom transitions with default transitions. So say you wanted to start Robot Stop live in Chicago, go to Big Fig Wasp live in Kentucky, and then stay at live in Kentucky. You can do that. You can do that the other way around too. So you've got track 1, a custom transition to track 2, and then just your default transition to the next track on this album. I'm just going to do this 3-track demo timeline to show you how it works. So I'm going to click done here. And that's going to take me to my save screen, which is just a table showing me what I'm making basically. So this is what I can expect the final result to be. It's going to ask if you want this to be one long MP3 or separate MP3s. Separate MP3s is actually broken right now, so this is not actually a real choice yet, but I'll get that fixed. One long MP3 does exactly what you'd expect it to. You just then select a save location. I'll put it on my desktop so it's easy to find. And then it does all the work behind the scenes. So this is broken right now. You will not see this percentage go up. I haven't gotten that fixed quite yet, but it is working in the background, and you'll see just in a second it's going to finish, and then we can go check that out, and I'll show you what it sounds like and what it looks like. So that's a 3-track timeline. You can sort of guess what how much time it would take, for longer. Before I show you, I'm gonna just recreate that so that I know what timestamps to look for. I need a new color. I can't see. Okay, so let's minimize. I'm gonna open. So this is my output file, and we are expecting from 0 to 820 to just have Robot Stop, and then at 820 we are expecting the transition to happen. So I will show you what that sounds like. So again, that was not supposed to sound good. That was just to make it so you know what it's doing. You could hear the one track fade in and the other track fade out, and then at 1307 we are expecting just a default transition, no crossfade logic. Show you what that sounds like. So yeah, just like you might expect. Again, this can be a mix. You can have a 14-track timeline that's half custom transitions, half default transitions. This is just a sort of demo to show you the idea. And now that I'm done with that, there's a couple ways that you can maybe help on this if this is maybe something that you're interested in. The first way would be to contribute transitions to Abrela, because this is a 100% manual process that I haven't even begun, because like I said, these are just totally demo transitions right now. But it is fairly straightforward and hopefully accessible to folks who know how to use Audacity or some basic audio editing software like that. So here's how it works. You've got 8 columns here. You've got a source track from a source album, and you've got a target track on a target album. Each line is just one transition from one track to another track. This one is saying at 500,000 milliseconds in robot stop, trigger the fade in of Big Fig Wasp from Live in Kentucky. Start that track, start Big Fig Wasp, instead of at the beginning of its track, you're going to want to start it here, which is something you might want to do for some transitions instead of starting at the very beginning. And you're going to fade in Big Fig Wasp for 3 seconds, and you're going to fade out Robot Stop for 3 seconds. I made a little visual diagram of what that might look like. So this is just the spreadsheet, and this is what you'd kind of be doing in Audacity to kind of figure that out. So yeah, Robot Stop, live in Chicago, just track an album at timestamp 500,000 milliseconds. So if this is 0 milliseconds in Robot Stop, then this is that timestamp. This is when I want to trigger the transition. And I'm transitioning to my target track, Big Fig Wasp, on Live in Kentucky, which is just song and album. Instead of starting Big Fig Wasp at 0, I'm skipping ahead to 140,000 milliseconds in this case, which means that this part of Big Fig Wasp doesn't appear in the final mix at all. It's sliced out completely automatically. And then I've got my 2 transition parameters, which is just saying that, at this point where there's overlap between the tracks, you can expect Big Fig Wasp to fade in for 3 seconds, and then you can expect Robot Stop to fade out for 3 seconds. So it's at 0, and then similarly, it has its ending sliced out completely. So it's not in the final mix at all. And so it is as simple as that. The benefit to this is that you don't need to master plan like a whole series of transitions to make like a dream album or anything like that. You can make each of these transitions in a total vacuum where you're just in Audacity loading up track 1, loading up track 2, figuring out where they overlap, and then putting that into the spreadsheet. Abrela is set up to handle chaining transitions automatically. So like Big Fig Wasp starting at 390,000 milliseconds, that's relative to the 0 millisecond mark in Big Fig Wasp. So even though in this case we're starting Big Fig Wasp at 140,000 milliseconds, we need to trigger it at this relative time, and Abrela knows how to do that, is all I'm saying. So you can just sort of focus on here's a transition, and it's as simple as just like you can click not a rant, but this isn't a real one, but all you need to do is input this data, and then you get the picture. I have a script that pulls this data from this spreadsheet and puts it into Abrela so that Abrela can actually work with it, and then it will like load in this screen here, where instead of just 1 to custom transition, you might have 2, 3, 4 or more. And I'm hoping that maybe a lot of people might be interested in contributing transitions because it's something that can get exponentially more complex and hopefully cool as more transitions are contributed to it, but that is a dream. I'm definitely going to get started on making some just manually myself now that I've got a proof of concept demo. And if there's anyone who's interested in the actual development side of it, I would definitely be open to like other people working on this with me. I've made a project outline document that outlines like the flow from a code perspective, and like what the project uses as far as Python libraries, and like how the actual project is structured and how it all works together file by file. I'm like 95-ish% complete with this, not 100% yet, but would be super open to collaborators in either of these. And yeah, I will put more information in the description of this video. And thank you for watching. Let me know if you have any questions.